Hello, Internet. My name is Chamomile.
And I'm Requiem. Now, listener, by now, Camomile's probably uploaded the episode containing his trial, and he's probably inserted a clip that seems to be me saying that I love a good twink werewolf. Now, of course, as has been established in the canon of this podcast, that was actually Mother Sorrow imitating my voice as part of a sinister plan. Now, of course, that raises the question, why is Chamomile helping Mother Sorrow with her sinister plans? I haven't answered that question. It's because Chamomile has entered a marriage alliance with Mother Sorrow. Isn't that right, Chamomile? Or should I say, Mr. Sorrow?
What about Mother Sorrow made you think she was my type?
I don't know. It didn't seem likely. But clearly you've entered into a marriage alliance. Is she gonna give us a car?
I mean, that was going to be my other question. Is that what would you expect this marriage alliance to profit me? Why would I need an alliance with a hag?
Interesting.
There's no other explanation for why you would keep spreading her devious plan to make people think that I have a thing for twink werewolves.
I'll share my path.
That's the only explanation you can think of?
That is the only explanation I can think of. There's no other explanation. I think we're still exploring the witch's hut. Or I guess not. We're trying to find the tall dam.
I completely forget where we are. Even if you're okay, so for legal purposes, I realize I'm still in the state of Arkansas now. Laying aside the plausibility of your claims about twink werewolves and your attraction or not to them, I was going somewhere with this, but then I got tangled up realizing I was still in Arkansas, and I assume this is some kind of owl hex.
I mean, where does Mother Sorrow fall on the waif, thick, fit girl triangle? I assume she's a type of waif, but aren't you into waifs?
I mean, more than any of the other three, but it's not a particularly strong preference. Also, isn't Mother Sorrow like stick thin? Like, not quite Jack Skellington inhuman proportions, but like.
Well, is that what a waif is? The thin?
Waifs are thin and slender.
Did we talk to these people?
I don't think so, though.
Hello, fellow Fae. Oh yeah, we talked to them. So we were trying to find the scythe tree, and also Mother Sorrow, and a girl from the village married a dryad.
I feel like someone's already been here.
Yeah, we've already been here. Bring up the map so that unexplored area to the middle left is, I think, where Old Beldam's hut is, and that bottom right area is where the scythe tree is.
A trivial matter.
I'll share my path.
See, these explorable maps are a pretty good idea, but they're often just overstuffed with not fun encounters. Like encounters that have basically nothing to do with anything. This one I don't even think was, but enough others have that I'm just now wary about exploring these maps in general, because I'm worried they'll waste a bunch of my time.
That's crap. Some more dire boars, hooray! I think the main thing I am upset about is why was I not invited to the wedding? Like I thought I was Mother Sorrow's best friend. Or we
Oh,
not
snap.
had the wedding yet.
I don't know what you think I would get out of this, but
But I don't know what you're into. I make no judgments.
don't you? I thought we had that conversation.
I mean, I don't know what she's into. I guess you two might be compatible.
I find it unlikely.
I feel like hags would be into that sort of thing, though.
Oh,
Actually, and this happens sometimes, especially, you know, online. If I can see the girl's ribs, then I always feel like, okay, no, you've gone too far into waif territory there, and now I feel like you're too fragile, and I'm nervous about hitting you.
I mean, we know Mother Sorrow's tough. She almost took that bite out of your arm.
In fairness, she does have a supernatural resilience, but still.
strike with all your might.
They just really needed to reduce the number of, like, bullshit encounters. Like,
Yeah. Like, taking the Old Oak Dungeon as sort of our arch example of,
Time's not waiting.
you know, too many bullshit encounters. Having, I would say, a maximum of 3 across both levels, centipede encounters, could have been acceptable if it was somehow thematically important that this place is overrun with centipedes. Which, you know, sometimes you want to have an area where, you know, you want to establish that this place has been overrun, you know, either because it was somehow attacked by, you know, a centipede swarm or whatever, or else just to sort of demonstrate that this place is abandoned or is uncivilized, and so, you know, these monstrous creatures just roam about unopposed because no one is keeping their population in check.
that's Mother Sorrow's.
Ah, it's Harold.
Not Mother Sorrow, I mean, Old Beldam. You're gonna have to try to go through that gate. Down to the left.
Ah, here we are.
Alright, I guess just go in. Don't do that. Alright, now, so obviously the first thing we need to do is appoint her of one of the cities, right?
Yeah, those worked great the last time we tried it.
I mean, based on the conversation you have with her in the game, Old Beldam is not actually evil, so I'm guessing she would have worked great in the tabletop version we did.
I mean, when I said to her, "We're looking for a lost child," she immediately responds, "Why do you assume I've kidnapped this boy?" We did not gender the child, actually, but I guess there are 50-50 odds on that one, so...
I mean, I know exactly where this child has ended up because I played through this part, so.
I also didn't ask you if you kidnapped the child, I asked you if you'd seen him.
She's got that hat on. She probably has people assuming she's stuff all the time. And she is doing witch stuff all the time. She's just not doing that particular witch thing.
I mean, I'm doing this just for revenge for the owl thing.
How dare you! I'm telling Judge Hoot Hoot about this.
Is it illegal in Arkansas to kill video game witches?
It is.
This will hurt.
That is exactly the opposite I would expect from... the opposite extreme I would expect from, Arkansas witch laws.
I hope you TPK.
Why can none of my guys take any turns? What the hell is going on?
Let's try this way.
Yeah, even with a huge chunk of my party mysteriously incapacitated, this guy's doing like 8 damage around. I think Kieran can take him.
Hold on, let me Google something. How to hack Pathfinder and kill somebody else's party.
That sounds impossible. I don't think that's a thing.
I guess we're gonna find out. Don't you think Mother Sorrow is gonna be upset when she hears about this?
I hope so.
Oh, it's one of those relationships.
This should do it.
I mean, I do believe we've established you already know what I'm into. People keep making will saves, and some of them are passing it, but doesn't seem to be doing anything.
A calculated risk.
So, while we are in the midst of this,
Riveting viewing.
yes, You want to, you have any sewer level topics you want to dredge up for us? You've got the list.
Part of me just wants, to watch you suffer.
I mean, okay, but do you want to inflict that on our viewer?
He hasn't actually sent us any money yet.
I'm sure it's in the mail.
Alright. Let me drag up the list. There we go. You know what? Last night I was trying to come up with like a piratey themed character. I know you've talked about pirate stuff before, so let's talk about Skull and Shackles and pirates. So, I think you've glanced through or read Skull and Shackles. Have you?
I have. That is a fairly popular adventure path and definitely a very popular concept. So, I have been through that one.
Yeah.
Pretty much cover to cover.
Was it well executed?
No.
What was at issue?
So primarily the railroading was the big issue. Being a pirate, a major part of that is that you got to be roaming the high seas. And in Skull and Shackles, there's not a whole lot to do other than, follow the railroad plot, same as always. So I'm trying to so like take Sid Meier's Pirates, for example. That's even an example of a game that has a main plot of sorts. Your family has been kidnapped, and the dastardly, like, Baron Raimundo or something knows their location. You have to go and track him down and free your family and hunt down the man who kidnapped them and so forth. It's all very swashbuckling. But in the meantime, you are just sailing about the Caribbean, and there are 4 nations there that are basically randomly going to war or peace with each other. So you can engage in some privateering of their traffic. You can engage in some outright piracy, just attacking whatever prize looks most valuable. You can go get into bar fights. I don't know why everyone is just permanently fascinated.
Calculated risk.
But yeah, you can chase down criminals for assorted kingdoms. And there's a bunch more. There's all kinds of stuff you can do to, treasure hunting, capturing famous pirates, finding lost cities, sort of El Dorado style.
This will hurt.
All right. Nah, I know how to fix this problem.
Not killing Old Beldam.
No.
Yes. Cam. Cam.
But yeah, so with Sid Meier's Pirates, which is basically the model for every pirate campaign, or should be. You know, you have a big old map of a wild, that was the W word I'm looking for, a wild Caribbean frontier, and there's adventure around every corner, and you set sail for adventure, and you sure do find it in many different ways. You pick what you want to chase after, and some stuff that you weren't planning on might come up on along the way, but ultimately you are chasing your own destiny, because that's what being a pirate is all about. You aren't some Navy officer, you are a pirate. Arg arg, fiddle-dee-dee. So the major problem with Skull and Shackles is that each of the adventures they have set out are fun little pirate adventures. The first adventure even works, which is often the case with Pathfinder, because you often do want a more guided introduction to a concept before opening things up. And so sometimes Pathfinder's intro does work. It sets you up with a nemesis and gives you a reason why you have got your own pirate ship. I do think it probably would have worked better because you start out press ganged into a pirate's crew, and oh boy, these guys again. So you start out press ganged into a pirate's crew, and your first adventure is basically escaping from him and making off with a ship. Because he captures a ship in the high seas, and so he leaves that under control of his lieutenant as they both sail towards harbor. And there is a storm. I think I remember this correctly.
Stand down.
But there's a storm, and you get shipwrecked on this island, and you find the lieutenant, you kill him, and you take his ship. Then you're able to salvage the ship and get it sailing again. And now you have a pirate ship. But every adventure after that, there's basically nothing to do except to go on the main plot adventure. It's the problem of each adventure is written by a separate person, and they have fairly minimal contact with each other. They've all read the same outline, but it seems pretty obvious that they're... I don't think the person writing Adventure Number 2 has read the complete Adventure Number 1.
We can do it.
Oh, that's right, you're a ranged attacker. Oh well. I keep doing that.
You offend me.
A calculated
So all there
risk.
is to do is engage with the main plot.
Yeah,
But is the main plot really piratey though?
I mean, it is not the least piratey, but it's... the concept of, the Pirate Council and Pirate Kings that they have in Pirates of the Caribbean 3?
Yeah.
That's a cool idea, but, there is a surprise... And it's been a while since I've read this, so I can't remember the plot of each chapter individually. But there is a lot of futzing around with this weird pirate government, which... And, I mean, they had to do something like that, because, of course, they're doing this... They have this linear railroad plot. They can't do what would have been the smart thing, which is to simply leave adventures lying about. There has to be, a pirate society that is guiding you towards them. This whole pirate coalition thing, and, becoming one of the pirate kings of the Pirate Council is not a bad idea for a late stage of your pirate plot. But, yeah. They have, at the back of, I think, book number 2, it's basically, here are some example ships,
Your time is over.
and,
Knave.
if your players want to just engage in some piracy, you could have them randomly encounter one of these ships and, fight it, and then get treasure when they win. It's okay, that wasn't worth $20. Like, that's what I would expect any random GM to come up with if I asked them, hey, real quick, come up with a pirate adventure. Like, literally someone who's been doing it for 6 months, I would expect them to be able to come up with that. You guys are supposed to be professionals. How about some elaborations? Are there specific trade routes that you could, try and hunt on? Are some parts of the sea higher traffic, which means more pirate hunters, but also more merchant galleons? Are there different islands that produce different resources with trade routes between them, so that you'll get different resources depending on which trade routes you're plundering? And, are some of those resources perhaps more valuable when they're far away from the islands that usually get them? So then, you can sort of ask yourself, is it worth it to cross the ocean with full cargo, with a full hold, to get to where I can sell things more profitably? Or should I just dump them off at the nearest port since I stole them anyway, so it's pure profit?
No mistakes.
Then, you might also do things like, well, since these islands are kind of important to, the trade going between them, maybe we also flesh them out a little bit. Might there be some adventures to be had on them? And then, some of your main plot pirate adventures can be hiding on them.
If you're gonna just kill her, you might as well just throw the pebble.
I mean, I was going to do that, but now you've suggested it. You've taken all the fun out of it.
I'm going to get my revenge.
Away, you rascal.
I mean, this was already my revenge, though.
For justice? You shouldn't seek revenge against justice, Cam.
That court was rigged. It doesn't count.
But pirates.
But pirates. But yeah, it's with a pirate theme, you definitely want to go with a more open setup. In general, with RPGs, you want to do this. A fixed plot really shines best in a video game which can have a fixed protagonist. Even something like The Witcher 3, where, there is a fixed protagonist, but you do get to make some decisions about what that protagonist does within the confines of what is reasonable for their character and personality. What the hell is this fascination thing?
Stand down.
But yeah, so video games are just such a better vehicle for this that trying to do it in a tabletop RPG is just really wrong-headed. Are you just immune to all energy damage?
One thing about Skull and Shackles that's set in the Shackles, which are kind of not in a good place for piracy. They're like off the coast of Garand, like this is their pseudo-Africa.
Left yourself
Doesn't seem like there's really trade going through. There wouldn't really be trade going through that area.
Yeah, I would be willing to just ignore that and just be like, okay, there's a bunch of merchant ships running around this place just for no reason. I won't even worry about why.
The other thing is move the skull and move the shackles closer to the equivalent of the streets of Gibraltar, There would be trade, a ton of trade going through there. You also move the hurricane that area, and it's between these two enemy countries. So it's like that's why nobody's been able to take control of it because there's a magical hurricane, and because it's between these two enemy countries that are constantly trying to take over these islands, but aren't. Neither is able to get naval dominance, and then you can sort of like be engaged with these two hostile countries.
Yeah, like this isn't a necessary requirement, but a good basis for a good basis for a
Your time is over.
pirate. A good thing you can do in a pirate campaign. That's what I'm trying to say, is that you can have a bunch of 3, 4, 5 different countries who are like they are in Sid Meier's Pirates, constantly going to war or peace with each other, and you privateer between them.
This will hurt.
Away, you rascal!
Aha, my cunning plan has succeeded. The Scarecrow has some weird fascination effect on it. I forget if that's from the tabletop or not, because, when we encounter tags, we decided to put them in charge of cities, and were then surprised to learn that those cities were living under a reign of terror.
Don't judge a book by its cover, is what I always say.
So you're telling me that you were surprised to learn that
Let's try.
Mother Sorrow was engaging in a reign of terror. You did not predict this.
I mean, in all honesty, I didn't when you said like, well, Mother Sorrow is in charge of the city. What do you expect? I did not remember having put her in charge of the city.
Well, yeah, like my
And
understanding
I'm
of
still not
this.
confident that actually happened.
Your memory is, generally speaking, very sharp, but it has the strangest gaps. But yeah, my understanding was of what had happened is that you put Mother Sorrow in charge because this was kind of an evil party, and you thought it would be funny to have a hag be in charge of the city. Then you forgot about it, and later on realized, oh right, I intentionally installed a fickle tyrant.
Hey, you got a recipe for shepherd's pie.
Fun
On the topic
fact,
of,
I signed up
pirate.
for every plate recently, #NotSpawn, and I have an actual recipe for shepherd's pie in my kitchen right now.
Continuing the topic of pirates, so I had a character idea that I think would be pretty cool for a pirate campaign. There's 10 years of peso material, so surely it's going to be pretty easy for me to build, right? 'Cause what I was
I
thinking is
mean, I
basically-
assume so. That's
Yeah.
certainly the reason why you're bringing it up, right?
Yeah. So, like, basically,
Time to shine. I don't tolerate
I do
What
not
the
remember that
fuck?
giant slug. What the fuck? I did not fight this. I thought that was going to be like the bottom part of the Skype tree, but nope. It's a giant slug. Do we have any salt? Just sprinkle some salt on it.
This is the weirdest encounter.
This
Were these on the encounter table at any point?
I don't think so, although in fairness, it seems like the kind of thing where I might have just shrugged my shoulders and decided, you know what, nah. I don't have a token for this and I don't want to make one. Like, if there was a real giant slug encounter, like, they had a backstory to it and everything, I'd be like, yeah, that's kind of funny. But if it's just like, yeah, here's a random encounter, that is especially bizarre. Like, fuck off, that's not real creativity. It's like the GM version of a fish milk. Oh my. This fog is not good for us.
Yeah, it's killing you. right, to the character. Basically like Tarzan but with water, you know, like Shark Boy essentially. Like he lives
Raised by
Like
sharks.
he lives out in the shackles. He was raised by sharks. Like he's got like some like water themed powers that could be like you maybe turn into aquatic stuff, but like on land, like so like more like a hybrid type thing, or you'd have like maybe summon like sort of stuff that could function outside of water, like you know crocodiles and sea snakes, or even like octopus, or even just having like sort of generic weather powers. Like I imagine it's sort of like if he's Tarzan, he's got to be a frontline combatant and probably using natural weapons. Like should be a pretty easy character to make in Pathfinder, right? Like how would I make that character?
Well, if you want the transform into some kind of war form thing, that immediately says druid. Druid should also probably be able to summon animal companions of a certain type, right? You know, that'll get you your crocodiles and so forth. I don't have the druid class right in front of me, but surely the druid is the solution to this conundrum, right?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, like, wild shape, like, you have to turn into an animal, like, can't really turn into war forms. Like, there's no really way to like do like a lycanthropic form. You can't just sort of
there's no lycanthrope / werewolf subclass for this in 10 years.
Yeah. Like, and like just being able to like, I just imagine a character like he doesn't have any weapons, but he can like suddenly grow claws or like turn an arm into a tentacle and smack a person with it. That'd be on theme, but can't really do that with the druid. And the impression I get is that the druids do legitimately start to fall behind in combat compared to the full base attack bonus classes, so might not be the most super effective. And also the thing is with summons, like there's actually not a lot of water summons you really need for this. The thing about water abilities is they really need to be able to function on land. Like even up in Skull and Shackles, you're doing most of your fighting aboard a ship, even when you're on water. So you really got to be able to summon stuff that is like aquatic but can get on a boat, like but there just aren't that many. Like I could be a shark shaman, but then I'm supposed to only shapeshift into a shark and summon sharks and rays, which 90 times out of 100 are not going to be useful abilities. So doesn't seem like the druid really works. Are there any other options for me?
Well, what you could do, and this is not as good, but I think it is still enough to get the concept across. You could just have a, some kind of fairly bog standard barbarian type. You wouldn't be able to do the crocodile companions thing, but have some kind of bog standard barbarian type. Take a race that has like water breathing and a bite attack, some kind of Sharkman race, which surely they have after 10 years.
They do, actually.
Okay, so no. It's fine, just take the Sharkman race.
I guess that's okay, but like, barbarians are like a low tier class. They're like,
are they? I was just honestly just kind of picking at random.
There's this class called the Shifter. Is it any good?
Shifter is a good class in the way that Old Beldam makes for a good ruler of a city.
Oh, so it's a really good class, is what you're saying.
Oh shit.
Oh, he died.
Yeah, Kieran is just fucking dead from con poison. Can we reverse that?
Turned off?
I mean, no one's going down in combat, so I thought I did, but...
Because I turned off character deaths on mine.
I don't see an option for it. I think it might only be available at the beginning.
Oh fuck. Hit inventory.
We have some
Can you go to
scrolls of
his
raised
inventory?
dead.
If he's still in the party, he just sit. Like, do you have a potion of restoration?
I have a signed scroll of raised dead, so
Yeah, he's the only cleric in the party, though.
I'll share my.
that's right. Got to be able to. All right, we're coming back for the South Tree later.
Maybe you could take. Maybe if you rest, he'll come back.
Okay, yeah. If I visit a healer of the capital, they can bring him back. He is, quote, at death's door and will apparently remain there indefinitely. My favorite play on that, by the way, is Shamus Young was playing a Diablo-like game. You know, one of those third-person isometric looter RPGs. And part of the gimmick of this one is that you have this home crystal that can heal you, and you have a bunch of friendly NPCs who hang out there, and you build up a little guild. And he's talking about how the guild mechanics, the guild mates kind of are more annoying than helpful, as NPCs with shoddy AI often are. So he has just emerged from the dungeon. He's poisoned and losing HP fast. He dashes for the crystal to try and save himself. And the way he puts it says that, I am past death's door. Death is taking my coat and asking me if I had any trouble finding the place. Which I've always found a wonderful turn on the concept. But yeah, and the punchline to that story is that one of his dullard companions was standing between him and the crystal, which delayed him by just enough to kill him.
That sucks. But the so Shark Boy, so Barbarian, so Shifter is a really good class that I should take.
Yeah, it is just as effective in Pathfinder as Old Beldam is in Civil Administration. Or Mother Sorrow, rather.
I've heard it compared to the Warrior NPC class in terms of damage output.
Not favorably.
Supposedly they fixed it a little, but it's like, at the point you're being outdamaged by a warrior as a melee class, like, I don't care. I'm not even gonna bother. There is the Spheres of Power Shifter, which I had Spheres of Power, so you can probably do pretty much anything, but like, it's essentially learning an entire game.
Yeah, Spheres of Power is very good, but it is extremely complex.
There's the Hunter class, which is mostly Druid minus, and is a little too focused on the Animal Companion, which the thing about having an Animal Companion is, like, it can end up feeling like they're the star of the show. Especially at early levels. You do some, like, weird, like, multi-classing, but, like, that's always a headache and always has failure points, and like, some of the multi-class builds you see, it's like, oh, this multi-class build is super effective once you get level 15.
Right.
It's like, alright, it sucks for the first 14 levels, but then you're omnipotent at level 15, so it's like, alright, so it sucks is what you're telling me.
Yeah, it's a theory craft class about how much power you can juice out of the system. And, anyone who's recommending it for regular play hasn't played since 2008.
One thing that I thought about that looks like that could maybe work, actually, would be to do a aspect Lycan strength hybrid.
Yeah, you might want to refluff some of the Lycan morphs to be more aquatic in nature.
Yeah, that's the main thing, since some of the early morphs are not really super aquatic. But the thing about the aspect classes is these are produced by one person working on his own as a hobby, Like, had Chamomile had, and I've talked about this scam, like, if he had, like, first party or even, like, full third party resources, one of the things he probably would have done was had, like, archetypes for the aspect classes.
Oh yeah, one of the most obvious things to do would be to create additional aspects, and then basically just say, yeah, here's a new aspect for the aspect hunter. Swap it in for one of the first three, and that's basically your archetype. And yeah, and one of the fairly obvious places to go with that is to have an aquatic, a purely aquatic aspect of the lichen. So, aspect of the sharkin, or whatever.
Which, as long as we're talking about aquatic abilities, I think we need to talk about this topic is, if you're going to have aquatic themed classes and stuff, they need to be able to function on land. They need to be able to function in an adventure that happens entirely on land. Because even in a game like Skull and Shackles, most of it is taking place aboard a ship. Like, it's mostly happening on the land. Able to swim speed and breathe underwater is a free trick. It is not helpful, and if your abilities only work when you're underwater, your abilities basically don't work.
Yeah.
So, like, an aquatic aspect of the lichen, probably doing a lot of hybrid, like, sort of werewolf-type morphs, and they're also, when they're turning into sea creatures, they gotta be turning into sea creatures that can be running around on land. Like, you can imagine, like, a giant crab or a sea serpent even, or even, like, a kraken running around on land. But, like, they can't have their whole power be, I just turn into different types of fish, because then it's like, they're just flopping on the ground while the rest of the party does stuff.
Yeah. And that is, the first thing I'd have to figure out is, okay, what is this guy's level 1 morph going to be? Because the war form kicks in at level 2, and you gotta be able to turn into something at level 1. For the regular lichen, it is an ordinary wolf.
It's a wolf, a rat, and a dire rat, so...
But yeah, an ordinary wolf and some other shit that is thematic, but you aren't going to use in combat.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that a little. For the rat, probably like a crab. I guess there's probably it's Pathfinder. There's probably a dire crab.
And if there isn't, there should be. You gotta have a giant enemy crab.
I don't know off the top of my head what the CR of like an alligator would be.
Yeah, find something that's CR1 or CR1 half. Preferably CR1, but we can be flexible on that.
I guess seals and walruses are a thing, but I think they are probably not super effective outside of the water. They just sort of flop around. Probably like an alligator or a crocodile. Are alligators ever saltwater?
I forget.
Not a biology major.
But yeah, if I had been the one to produce Skull and Shackles, then it's virtually guaranteed there would have been some aquatic piratey themed aspects getting made for that, and decent odds that the aquatic lichen aspect would have been one of them, and something for the beguiler.
We set up camp.
Yeah, sure, but first we reassemble our party. There we go. Valerie is apparently, in our book here.
Okay, there doesn't appear to be a stat block for alligator. You just have to use a crocodile, and there's CR2, so that wouldn't work. But surely there's like a CR1 aquatic thing that can function relatively well on land, right?
If absolutely necessary, I would invent one. Especially because, the concept is pretty smooth sailing from about level 2 or 3 on. Right, once you're getting into, firstly, things where their animal forms are usable on land, like crocodiles and such. And And then secondly, also just things where, okay, now the morphs are online, so even if your new animal form is of very situational use, you still have a crocodile man morph to fall back on for standard use, and you'll the ability to transform into a shark will eventually turn into the ability to transform into a shark person. So
Yeah.
I can't rest here. Do I rest at my throne room? I guess I probably do have royal quarters there.
Yeah, they're royal quarters.
The inn is more fun, though. It's lively.
Like, that comes up a lot with the aquatic stuff and Pathfinder. Like, there's this one, like Nereids. You can summon a Nereid, but Nereids lose basically all their powers if they're not within a mile of the ocean. So it's like, so I can summon a wet lady at level 16. Which, now that I say that, I'm like, okay, probably somebody at Pathfinder thought that was a cool power. Like, I don't
Right.
want to be able to summon a wet lady a lot.
Oh, hello.
We should probably deal with the trolls. Like, I think the thing to take away is water ability, the ability to function well underwater is a party trick, and it cannot be something your class cannot have to be underwater to function. Because then it just does not, it's a non-functional class.
Yeah.